Welcome back to the Talent to Learning Show podcast series, episode 66, with independent learning tech analyst John Lay. Today, I interview Barry Kelly, CEO of Thought Industries, about the current state of extended enterprise learning industry. You can find more of our fiercely independent content at talentedlearning.com. Well, welcome back, listeners, and thanks very much for tuning in to another episode. On this show, I'm fortunate to interview the senior executives and the customers of the world's most prominent learning tech solutions. And today's no different. We have return guest, CEO of Thought Industries here to give us a much needed and timely update on the status of customer, partner, and extended enterprise education in general. Now, this update could just be anecdotal if we wanted it, because Thought Industries is a perennial winner in the Talent to Learning Annual Extended Enterprise Awards, because they have been leading the customer education industry for now almost a decade. But today's not just going to be anecdotal. Today's update is backed by hard data collected from practicing extended enterprise professionals and synthesized in Thought Industries' newly published The State of Extended Enterprise Learning 2023 report. And welcome back, Barry. It's great to have you back on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, John. It's always an absolute pleasure to spend time with you, and appreciate being back. We finish one, I'm wondering if I'm going to get an invite the next time.
Well, let's take a stroll down memory lane all the way back in 2018. Believe it or not, was the first time we had you on the show, and our topic was that was episode 15. That was tying customer education to business success. So we were talking about measuring and changing the business and competitive differentiators all back then. I just went back to listen to this and the other ones I'm going to talk about, and they're still super timely, even though we've been talking about this same thing now for almost 10 years, publicly and privately. Then you came back in 2021 to do the same thing we're doing today. You had discussing your report back in 21 and all the things that were happening. And it's super interesting to go back in only 2 years to see what's changed and what's remained the same in our industry. But things are flying fast, and you're right on the edge of it. And then last year in episode 55, back again, and we talked about all the advances for content as a business, for training businesses out there and continuing education providers, and what the next level of stuff is going on. And when I re-listened to that, well, that's still cutting edge stuff. So we're you and I are right on the cusp of talking about all the cool stuff here over the last 5 or 6 years publicly. And today's no different. Give us an update in case anybody's been living under a peach basket here the last 10 years and doesn't know who you are. Why don't you just give us a quick update on Thought Industries as a company and where you fit into the industry?
Thanks so much, John. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a pleasure being with you every one of those. And I think, as we think back to all those conversations, everything is still really relevant today. I think to give you an overview on Thought Industries, as you mentioned, I can't believe it, but September will be our 10-year anniversary as a company. At Thought Industries, we are an external learning technology company, and we've been doing that since the very beginning. We have a learning technology that allows companies to essentially create a highly compelling set of learning experiences, from in person to small micro learning courses, all the way to as I said, highly blended learning programs and everything in between. And we allow you to deploy that, monetize it, package it, deliver it, integrate with your whole giant ecosystem of technology that you need in order to get it done. And we sort of work on helping not only create great content, but help you manage what we call the business of learning. So like our tagline, powering the business of learning, that's what we've done. We focus, I suppose, in two main markets, what we would call, customer or partner education, which is the extended enterprise. We've been doing that for a very long time. And then we work with organizations, professional training companies. So if your product is a training experience or educational experience, our technology will help you run, grow, and scale, not only in the United States, but globally, and get you to scale. So that's what we've done. We've been so fortunate to have 10 years in this market. It's been so good to us, amazing bunch of customers, and it continues to be really exciting. Lots of changes, lots of great things going on all the time to keep us interested.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. What a great story, success story. When you and I first met just shy of 10 years ago, I was starting Talented Learning to be a blog to talk about extended enterprise learning and how to buy it, what it was, and starting right at the beginning because there was nothing else like it. And then I met you right at the very beginning, who was starting a brand new company to do the exact same thing. And we were you and I were the two here that were doing it, and nobody else was talking about it. And, we've now followed each other, or I'm following you rather, here through the last 10 years, just watching, how this has went from an unheard of topic to a nice to have topic to now mission critical competitive differentiator, all in a short 10 years. And so it's been a cool ride. And so you've been covering a lot of that in your latest report, and in every annual report of what's changing from year to year. So tell us about the report, what it is, where the data is coming from. Give us an overview of that for everybody, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, John. So, I think over the years, when we first met, I was like, what do you know about this stuff? Like, there's no information out there. It's really hard to, get data or information on the extended enterprise. Some people say they do it. Some people say don't know anything about it. They've never heard of it. And so what we did as an organization, over time was to build internally what we call a learning strategies team. And that organization was designed inside our company explicitly for this reason, right? To do the research, to understand best practices, to do all sorts of stuff, right? To build maturity models, to create white papers, information, and everything that is needed to help our customers, prospects, and the broader market to kind of know how to make the right decisions, whether it's to do with technology, product creation, optimization, delivery, packaging. And that's really where it started, right? This report, believe this is our fourth year doing this report, maybe fifth year actually doing this report. I'll be in trouble with the marketing team for not knowing the exact number.
It's probably six.
Yeah, right. So that's the average up. But part of this is for us to really get an understanding, from the market as to what are the things that are happening, what are some of the trends that we're seeing, what's new, but also how are things tracking, from year to year. And that's the beauty of having done this for a number of years. We're actually starting to see trend lines, in particular parts of the business. In this particular report, we've researched over 200 companies, in the market. About, I would say about 82%, I think overall, just higher than 80%. Our organization's over 100 million in revenue. Nearly 90% of the individuals are directors or managers, right? So people, responsible for not only the strategy, but delivery, and all the tactical decisions that have to be made in these organizations. So I think a really good mix of individuals. And most of these are B2B organizations, and with an average of about 21,000 learners each, right? So these are, I would say certainly we're covering a large part of the market. There's SMB and sort of mid-market folks in there as well. But really, these are most of the data is kind of coming from more individuals that, have been doing this for a while, are running highly complex learning organizations at scale, and looking for all those fine margins in improving their business. So really great group of people, and everyone very generous with their time and willingness to contribute to the report.
Excellent. How would you contribute to the report? Is it through surveys, interviews?
Surveys, yeah. I mean, we're also always kind of interviewing and gaining data and information, from the broader market. So we do it in a lot of different ways. But in this report, the sort of formal question, answer, and evaluation, all of that is done, is done through a survey. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And who's the intended audience for this report? It's
yeah, kind of like I said, right? I think earlier on in terms of the markets that we serve. So anybody involved in extended enterprise learning. So if you're involved in anything to do with when the learning technology gets turned to face the outside world, and you're responsible for training partners and customers and everybody that's part of the external ecosystem, this is for you. If you work at a training or education company where you're responsible for creating learning products, delivering training, whether that's through, sort of B2B or B2C models, you're going to find a whole bunch of really great data and information in here.
Okay, great. So from a takeaway standpoint, let's get into it. What's the what we learned this year? Is the market speeding up, slowing down, expanding, contracting? What's going on?
Yeah, I would say, from what we've learned, I think the market has grown a little bit last year, certainly not maybe at the velocity it has before. So kind of staying constant. I think we have about 40, somewhere close to about 39 companies last year that saw revenue increases in their business and growth. About another 40% saw revenue sort of stay flat. And we kind of got the same thing kind of coming next year. People are like, okay, this is, if you read the news and you read the sort of macroeconomics, everyone knows that, there's just challenges in the economy. So I think, organizations are happy to be able to sort of keep these things, on a straight line. And I think, we're forecasting as we move through the remainder of this year that, we're not going to see decline, which I think is a great thing. But we're certainly, organizations certainly in this market are keeping things on the constants. And we see pockets of growth here and there as well.
And why do you think it's not expanding as fast or as exponentially as it has been? Macroeconomics, but is it more practical than that? Is it access to resources, access to budget for these organizations for expanding, you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that there's no doubt about that. I mean, it's depending on how closely connected to a P&L you are. I think that's going to have a big big part of it. I mean, even if you are connected to a P&L and you've seen maybe less margins come through last year or sort of flattening of growth. And, you just have to make decisions about how you run the business that way. And then I think organizations where it's cost center, or worse, right? Not a cost, or a little bit less than that, or loss center, I think, you're going to have to go to the board or the executive suite to get budget. And I think, that has become, we get that question a lot. How do I go to the, the executive team and petition for more budget or keep budget flat year over year? And I think, certainly things were, especially in the latter half of 2022, for some companies, there wasn't as much available budget as there had been in previous years. But, I think in the report, we talk a little bit about the resilience, right? People have, what they've done through that movement is to get really focused on the things that work, right? And this is the beauty of it, right? You can, in learning, you can sort of like put your head down and get out there and sort of, did someone take the course or did they take the training? Did they complete it? But if you really get into the business, what sort of impact is it having on the greater ecosystem of our company? And I think we're seeing people draw the lines in a much more significant way to the value that learning is delivering across the life cycle. And so, yeah, I think people have been incredibly resilient in doing that. And I think that's the positive point that's kind of come out of the data.
Doing more with less, really this story of history here, in general, and probably AI has some help in doing that too. Like in your solution, what you guys are using that to basically knock out automation or knock out manual administration and things like that.
Yeah, certainly a place that we want, we're working on getting to as we look at our business kind of, we have sort of two pillars of the business. One we call ultimate respect for the learner, which is, providing tools to our customers to create the most compelling learning experiences, right? So it's not only about the outcome, it's about the experience that an individual has and engaging with your brand, your product, and leveling up or whatever it may be. So that's kind of one pillar. The other pillar is, optimizing the business. So we think very, very closely about, okay, how do we quieten the noise in your day-to-day work? It's not always the fanciest, coolest, shiniest stuff, but it is, how do we make sure that we provide technology that helps your team focus on the things that add value, right, to your company and try and remove some of the noise. So yeah, I think that's a thing that organizations have been very, very focused on. Time is precious, resources are precious, and last year and through this year, quite frankly. So, all right, how do we do the things that are absolutely necessary?
Yep. This year, 2023 is about efficiency.
Yeah, absolutely.
open back up. So tell me about, let's shift gears here. Tell me about monetization. I talked about those 3 podcasts we did. Even before that, we were doing webinars before we were doing podcasts. And you and I did a webinar almost 9 years ago, 8.5, 9 years ago, on whether to charge for customer education or not. The monetization process. And we had some theories back then that aren't relevant to today. Tell me what's going on in the world today with monetization.
I think, probably like, I think I'm one of those guys that flips straight to the monetization page of the report when it comes out, it's just been such a passion for me. I think in our company, this, right? The first 2 things we built was an authoring system and a commerce system, right? We've been in the enabling sort of learning packaging and monetization from day one as a company. And, it's a really important part of it. And it's a fascinating that productizing learning to me has been a sort of a life's work. And it's something that's really fascinating to me, because I don't think there's a week goes by where I don't see a learning product being monetized, packaged, in a new way. It's just it's happening all the time. I'm always constantly surprised by it. So one of the things that we've seen, and just to kind of quote some data here, we've seen since 2021, 43% of the organizations polled in 2021 were monetizing. Right. In this last report, it's up to 61%. Right. So we've seen a really good lift in the numbers of organizations that are actively monetizing. And also, almost a 50-50, between sort of a cost center and a profit organization, and then a break even. So we're seeing, half the organizations here in profit or at a break even level. Which is great. Talk about being a master of your own destiny. And I think especially when it comes to the extended enterprise, if your job is to educate partners and educate customers, it's not always related to monetization, right? So it's always, and we've had probably many conversations in the market about how customer education and partner education impacts the ecosystem, time to value, education qualified leads, product adoption, all of those things, right? And so those all will continue to persist, but we are seeing more and more, organizations who, are continuing to add, monetization in those particular areas. And then obviously, if you're a training company, well, your bread and butter is the revenue, right? So you got to be heavily focused on trying to carve more margin out of the existing products. And there's a lot of different ways we do that. Or adding net new products, right? Net new learning products to expand your footprint and expand your market. So we're seeing growth there, and that's been absolutely fantastic to see.
Wow. Super interesting.
Yeah.
Super interesting. So with all that growth in the marketplace, growth in monetization, people now having 60% of these organizations have to open up their wallet to access a lot of this training.
Yeah.
My guess is the quality, not my guess, I see it every day, but the quality of the education, the learner experience is probably more important than it ever has. What did the report have to say about learner experience?
Yeah, it is. I love it. Like, another reason why thought industries exist is because, I was one of those people that was banging my head off the wall with every LMS experience I had, and these learning and training products that I had to endure, I suppose. And I think what absolutely kind of lights up my day every time is these conversations about, we want to make the experience of learning better. And that is something that is, jumped off the page again, in the report. Building, I think the way it was put is right, building an engaging learning experience is top of mind. It's the number one thing that, individuals and organizations want to do. They want to improve the experience of learning. And that is, that actually has sort of been at the forefront of this report every year, which really is something I think is really significant, because we have another little thing that we talk about at our company, which is experiences and outcomes. And, it may have been in the past that an individual or an organization wanted to get you to some sort of outcome. And that could be a 275 slide PowerPoint presentation with a a 58 question multiple choice assessment at the end. And trust me, it's a way to get you there. But I think that the really meaningful part of that is the experience. Like, so how do we create how do we engage a learner, right, to use all their senses to learn? How do we connect them with their peers? How do we get them excited? How do we have them come back? How do we unblock them? How do we think about learning in a more, this whole concept of moment of need that we've been talking about for years, but like, how do we put not only the right piece of education in front of them, but how do we put the right format in front of them at the right time? So whether that's in the product, in the course of work, whether it's a micro learning experience, whether they need to be unblocked with a simple video or a knowledge-based article, whether they need a job aid download, or whether they just need to get on with an instructor and and get the hair dryer treatment. I don't know. It's like, and all of those things. I mean, I think experience is incredible, is such an important part, and that continues to be it continues to sort of be at the forefront of where people are looking to improve at their organization.
For without a doubt, just the voluntary nature of external audiences, whether you're charging or whether you're not, the learners don't have to be there and they don't have to take that content. And that's something that you don't have to deal with employee learning very much. You have that option to say you're mandated to take this content, take it or you're fired. And so that gives you a different perspective on how much you have to think about the learner experience. And so without a doubt, in our clients, we see that as just a primary goal always in selecting a solution and trying to get ahead of the competition, because it's not just now being out there with customer education content, it's now being better than your competition. And so it's the bar just keeps on
100%.
Goes up and up and up. But another thing that's super important, more important in external learning, I think, than internal learning, is just the importance of the ecosystem. It's so much bigger in external learning, and so much more diverse. Tell us what the report's summarizing on the importance of integration and ecosystem.
I think it's such an important one. When you are dealing with the outside world, you are, when I say this, learning technology that faces outwardly to the customers, to the partner ecosystem and beyond, needs to be integrated with a whole different suite of technology that the internal learning LMS is. Vastly different, right? We're talking about CRM systems, marketing automation tools, and like, if you've been under a rock, you might not notice, but there's so many new technologies coming into sort of sales and marketing these days. AI is heavily featured through a lot of these products, and so the demands for integration with all of these technologies is critical. And where your needs for integration today are going to be vastly different a quarter from now and a year from now, right? So this is an evolving stack of technologies. I think at our company we have 62 different technologies that we use to run our business. So just think about it. Wow. Right? So that's a lot. And how many of those are facing our customers or not? All of those need, and especially in our business in the LMS side of things, all of those things need to be integrated. So I think that's the key, right? More and more organizations need to be able to connect to more of those technologies. And so we've seen a real, an increase in that particular area, and the need to want to be connected to the broader ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Is it driving the need for pre-built connector type integration, or because it's, I don't know, so diverse that it needs more API, more advanced type connection? Is there a trend going one way or the other, in your opinion?
I think it's a mixture, right? I think there's the sort of 80-20 rule and all of this stuff, right? So if you're not integrated with Salesforce, then, pack up your bags and go home, right? Like, I mean, who isn't, right? So, I mean, I think in our business, we have a whole suite of native integrations that are turnkey, right? So turn them on, they're going to have multi-directional communication with said application, marketing automation, CRM, all of the webinar and training tools that you would need, certifications, proctoring, all those things, right? That's a kind of non-negotiable. I think then there's a sort of a middle tier where it's just a point-to-point communication between two pieces of technology, and there's a lot of middleware that's come into the market in the last number of years that is very, very powerful. That it's going to allow you to do some of those very, very specific integrations. And we do that as well through a thing called TI Connect. And then we have the next layer, and I think we've talked about this before, but we have a product called Helium, which is our headless technology, and that's where organizations are creating integrations maybe with bespoke technology, right? So at a training company, if you've got a very, very specific training management tool that you use, or a very, very specific grading system, and you need to create a sort of a more bespoke integration between that technology where there's multi-directional communication, then we have technology for that. But it's an absolute, most of the customers turn up to us have a Visio chart of their learning ecosystem, right? And you got to be able to connect all the lines, and there'll be a whole new set of lines 6 months and a year from now when some new products get added. And we're also about to experience AI in this industry, where we're going to see more and more AI tools being used in authoring and all those types of things, certification and assessment. So we're going to need to be connected to those too. So I think I'm just looking at the report here. Marketing automation. So the things that were featured, sort of marketing automation, training support, data and analytics. They are big areas. Obviously, CRM is one of the biggest ones inside marketing automation. Customer success platforms about 16%, marketing platforms about 25%, and then CRM is like 67%. So as you can see in that sort of tier, training support systems about 55%, e-commerce about 20%, credentialing is about 18%, and then product adoption technologies, the WalkMe's of the world, the Pendos of the world, about 19%. So those are big. And then we've got a lot of integrations with data. So data clouds, BI connectors, data warehousing, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as an LMS that sits in its own box now. It's got to reach out its tentacles to the rest of the world for sure.
Yeah, interesting. With my clients, when I help them find learning management systems, I'd say probably one of the things I add the most value in and have to spend the most time in is just mapping that ecosystem. Yeah. If they don't have that Visio, of just helping them figure that out so you can communicate it to people like you or in your team, because it's different every single time and it changes, as you said. Well, this is like always a super fast conversation. We're out of time. We got to get to the advice question. Audience, what we should have done, Barry and I got on the phone without hitting record. We are on Zoom here. We talked for 30 minutes. We're like, oh man, we should hit record. We'd be done already, because that was just as interesting as this conversation. But let's finish it up here with one last good question here. You mentioned earlier on about these business leaders have to go to the executive team here and get this budget. What's your best advice for something that they could say or something that they could do, something practical here that people might not be thinking of to help unlock some of this budget? It's more of an art than a science, I think.
Well, if I was giving advice to anybody, because I'm in an interesting sort of place here, because not only are we a learning technology company, we have a customer education team, and so I'm one of those people that approves budget here, right? So I would say there's 4 things that are critical. I think number one, and I always say this, right? Absolutely, it's critical for you on the team to understand the current business goals and strategy. Don't assume you know what they are, right? These are changing. At our system, at our company, I think I've told this story before. Like, we use OKRs, objectives and key results. So we have very, very specific way of measuring projects and progress across those. And those are edited and iterated every quarter and reported to the organization. So our business strategy is it's very, very constant for a year and beyond, but there's a very, very specific tactical things that are changing in the business quarter to quarter, what we're measuring, what's important, what's a work on, what's something that we want to gain momentum in. Customer education is directly connected to pretty much most of the things that we talk about, right? Retention, net retention, time to value, support deflection, all those things, it's there. But understand which ones are important to us at a given time. So do it, go find out what your current detailed strategy. No matter how big your company is, you got to know that if you're responsible for educating the customer and ecosystem. All right. Second thing is get your reporting down. We have a lot of conversations about how do I connect the value of the educated customer or the educated partner to the business. You got to figure it out. In this day and age, it's a non-negotiable. You got to understand how you impact all the things I just mentioned: time to value, retention rates, net retention rates. The time to value for a new partner, all of the product adoption, product understanding, recertification in the partner network, all those things you got to understand. So be able to report on that and make reporting ongoing. Don't have it just be something that you pull a spreadsheet out and do, once a quarter. Have a management delivery cadence, right? So figure out some way to get a dashboard in front of critical executives or individuals that will find those things meaningful. The thing about that, and then build those relationships. I was in a leadership meeting yesterday with our team, and I look around the table. Each one of those individuals at the table have needs for education, right, into their particular responsibilities. So get to know those individuals, right? They may have been given some tasks from the CEO or the president of the company or the board. Understand, get to know them, understand what's working, what's not working for them, and be flexible enough. And then I think the other thing is be embedded in the life cycle of the customer and the partner. So if you're just going to, sit in a chair and onboard customers or do some sort of generic learning around product adoption, you're missing it, right? You're missing where you can bring value. Customer and partner education and individuals' education backgrounds are providing huge amounts of value in marketing right now for education qualified leads, for trial optimization, for qualification, all of that sort of stuff. They're adding value in the support team to help deflect, train support people, deflect support queries. They're helping the operations and the services team get organizations to value more quickly. The impact is like across the organization. So make sure you know all those folks, make sure you're sitting down at the table, make sure you tap them on the back, make sure you approach them in the offsite and tell them you can help them. And I think if you do that, you're going to be heavily embedded in the organization and its needs.
Mm-hmm. And then getting budgets, nothing but a thing.
Nothing but a thing. Trust me, those marketing folks always have budget. You know that, right?
They always do. They always do. So there you have it. Sage advice. Barry Kelly, CEO of Thought Industries, leading customer education, professional education, learning solution in the market. Understand your current business goals and strategy, reporting, build relationships, and get embedded in the life cycle. That's how you can get budget. That's how you can push forward customer education and extended enterprise education in general. Barry, thanks for coming back to the show here for your fourth time. It's always enlightening. We have enough content here for 3 podcasts. It's super, super interesting. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, John. And if anyone wants to get their hands on the report, it's available on our website, plus a whole bunch of other great white papers and information on anything you might need. So I hope you enjoy it. It was certainly fun for us. And thanks to everybody that participated and given the data. And get to see you next year, John, for the 2024 report.
All right. Hopefully before. That's thoughtindustries.com is where you can get that. And there's also a link on this podcast post that you can access it to. And also you can find more information, not only on Thought Industries, about Thought Industry, but on Talented Learning. We have a nice profile. We're keeping a lot of good information about them. Also, you can come get some more independent research. So there you have it, listeners. Thanks for tuning into another episode of the Talented Learning Show. You can find more of our fiercely independent content at talentedlearning.com. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next.